does that mean? You know what it means? It means that there is cheese coming, because every Terran in the world goes Reaper. I built a bunker in my mineral line. I scout. Oh crap. Can't really get in there to do serious damage. And poke down and kill him that way and go from 3 angles, and he pretty much lost at this point. I could have dropped an expansion, but I want to make sure that I'm completely safe. His SCVs aren't doing anything, the bunker's killing the Reapers, and all in that just completely failed. Hello everybody, this is JoeSavy bringing you my 4th video in the Quest for Mech series, and today is a Terran versus Protoss matchup. As I'm on the top left-hand corner, and my opponent is Zealous in the top right-hand corner of this map, Daedalus or whatever it's called, I forgot the name. But this is basically a series where I go exclusively Mech, or at least try to. And in this game, I have the same goal. Now, whatever variations it takes along the way, I'll go ahead and use them or do them just so that I don't die. And of course, in the early game, especially against Protoss, you need to go some kind of BIOS. We're going to speed it up to 2x at the beginning. Go into my vision. Start out with a 10 depot, 12 barracks, and then we're going to get a 12 refinery, I believe. I think I go Reaper. Pretty sure going fast Reaper initially. So we have 12, and then 12, here we go. Reaper expand, we're going to scout with that Reaper, mostly just scout, and maybe pick off a probe, but I mean the biggest thing is just to find out what our opponent's doing. That's absolutely the most important part. And then we'll go for a fast expand right after that. So Reaper's going to be on the way, and you know, we won't have enough money at that point, so we'll have to get a reactor on our barracks, getting a supply depot so we don't get supply capped, continuing to macro up with our SCVs so we don't get supply capped, of course.
Upgrade complete.
And upgrade's complete. So Reaper on the way, pushing out, scouting around the natural, because we know how much proxy pylons can be a nuisance. And has he put it there? Yes, well, he's got a probe, but eventually he's going to put one there. I don't even think I scout it. So we scout out, and at the same time, back home, we've expanded, and we've gotten a reactor, and our factory's on the way. So we went barracks, Reaper, command center. Oh no, sorry, barracks, Reaper, reactor, command center, and then follow that up with a factory and a supply depot so we don't get capped. We'll get a couple rounds of Marines, or at least one round. It's always a good idea to go to bunker on this low ground if you're up against a Protoss and you don't know what's going on, but this Reaper's going to give me the intel I need to find out. No expansion for the Protoss at 4:30, so I need to scout. This is very important. This is the most important part of the game. So he doesn't want me to scout. I know something's up now. Twilight Council and Chrono, so that means blink. I'm going to stop it right now. If you ever see this, and Chrono Boost on a Twilight Council, at this point in the game, we're at about 5 minutes, it's blink. Straight up, I'm not even going to say anything else, that is blink. That means blink Stalkers are coming. Now, DTs could follow that up, but why would you waste a Chrono, a very valuable Chrono, on a Twilight Council, when you could be using it on a cyber core and applying more pressure at this point, earlier? Because this dude, Zealous, wants blink. Okay, now that we've figured that out, now that we know that he's going blink without a shadow of a doubt, we're going to go ahead and get a bunker, actually moving that bunker, and then we'll, instead of swapping it with this barracks, swapping the factory with the barracks, we're going to get a tech lab on our factory and immediately begin siege tank production. Now, I'm not getting a bunker right here, because if a group of blink Stalkers were to push up here, like on this ramp, they could actually overrun a bunker with 2 Marines in it. Or if they were to blink over here and say my army were in this area, then they could overrun my main, and then it just puts you in a very awkward position. So instead, I'm going to play a very tight approach. I'm going to have my bunkers right here. I do make one little mistake, and for some reason, I don't scout this. Oh, God, I still don't scout it. Look at that. That was the most horrible scout of all time. That was literally 1 inch from finding out where the proxy pylon was, and would have changed my entire game plan. But that's my goal with my Reaper, is to find that proxy pylon, and I couldn't do it. So continuing to macro up, most of my stuff is in base. I haven't moved down to the low ground yet. Sieging up a tank, I probably should have moved it up just like one more square. But I wanted good coverage in case he did happen to blink up in this area, and just let the tank shell out damage on pretty much everything. So this Reaper is checking for an expansion. That's its goal now, is to spot for an expansion. If there's an expansion, I'm pretty safe to move out, at least somewhat, right? Second siege tank's on the way, and then I'll be just about completely safe against any kind of blink stalker play. Now the Reaper on his route back, looking for those blink stalkers, because I know that they're coming. I know they are, but just because I saw the chrono on the Twilight Council doesn't mean he couldn't have transitioned into... Sorry. Just because we saw the Twilight Council doesn't mean he couldn't have gotten DTs in that time following seeing all that chrono boost and everything like that. So I wanted to get a turret up. And we're back. Okay, so just because we saw Blink Stalkers doesn't mean they couldn't have gotten DTs in that time period. So we're going to go back into my vision, and this is all I see. So for some reason, I unsiege my tank and move it back a little bit. I probably should have bumped it up just a square. I don't even know if it could have been actually in range of these Blink Stalkers to begin with, but that was a miss micro on my part. So I end up unloading and trying to salvage, or maybe not even salvage, just unloading. But this siege tank has good coverage of the ramp, and this siege tank will cover just about everything over here. Now with a third siege tank, I am pretty much impenetrable to anything. Pretty much an endless supply of Blink Stalkers. Here is a partial mistake on my part. Now I didn't plan... Well, initially I planned on lifting up my command center, but I didn't plan on leaving it there for that long. But I save it with... 20-something HP. That was ridiculous. I totally thought I was going to lose it, but this siege tank... here's one kill, hero siege tank. No other kills on my siege tanks. But the best part is that Toss is still on one base. Yes, he hasn't expanded behind it. I have my second command center. I have siege tanks, I have marines, I have a turret. I am safe against just about everything under the sun. And this is good. This is a good thing for me, or good place for me to be. Now if he blinks up, 3 tanks shell out on his entire army. Now it is a bit awkward to push out at this point. Notice on my mineral line I have 21 out of 24 workers. The only reason I'm not building more is because I'm pretty much fully saturated at this point. I could continue SCV production when I finally do move out. I don't want to mine out. I just don't want to have a bunch of wasted workers sitting on the mineral line. That's my thought. I know that there's other trains of thought with that. Okay, so he pokes up, and the siege tanks just shell. I mean, they destroy most of the stalkers. So, let's see. Let's look at the units lost. We're up to 1,100 versus 675. We're going to go 4x until he decides to do more. Sneaky Protoss getting a proxy, or a ninja expansion at the third rather than the natural, probably because he sees that I keep scouting the natural. Drop a scan, see how many stalkers there are, and I decide, okay, well I could probably poke up a little bit and be alright. Just because I know where they're at. He could theoretically run around this area and blink over to my base, the tender side of my base, but I'm pushing out. I see the mothership core, he can't do that. Tanks shelling out. Continuing to shell out. They do so well at ruining stalkers. I mean, they do that bonus damage, and lose one by mistake, but we're just going to pick it up to 2x till I break the contain, and he'll be forced to run away. Doesn't lose any, but I'm able to get my expansion. Now we know Protoss has his, but I've had mine built for a long time, and I have a large mineral bank. Very gas starved, but have a very large mineral bank. So it's time to get another command center, and then we'll follow up those initial factories with more. So that was a horrible blink on his part. I have 2 factories in my base, or 2 tanks in my base, a factory in production, 3rd command center, and he has a bunch of dead stalkers. If we want to look at the unit loss, that's what really put me ahead. 3,900 to 1,675. Very efficient trading from the siege tanks. Now this, I don't know why I'm doing that. That was actually a mistake. Maybe I was pulling them to attack the Stalkers, but then I realized that I didn't need to. Now, following that large engagement and that large trade, for one, our expansion's going down, which is good. For two, I'm moving on track toward my mech army that I was looking for, so we're getting a reactor on this factory, which probably should have been a tech lab. And I have an army which fares very well against Blink Stalkers. Now, eventually, what my transition will be, if he happens to hold this, will be siege tank, Hellbat, and other mechanical units like that. But if he can't hold it, then I win. And that's the idea of this kind of push. Is he all-in with the Blink Stalkers initially, he failed, and now I'm countering with a bigger, scarier army. And if I fail, then I'll have siege tanks at home and a bunch of other things to defend. So that's my thought process. Do need to get more refineries, and these Stalkers are definitely a pain. So it becomes a base trade type scenario, and I'm happy to take that just because I know my army's bigger than his, and he can't actually kill me. So I'm going to poke up, start focus firing down everything I can, pretty much. We're going to pick it up, clear his base out, but the best part about siege tanks is that when Stalkers are in your base, if you just spread your siege tanks out, they don't do well against them. And I'm just going to keep sending Hellions in, which also, you know, are just used as like fodder for the Stalkers. But in the grand scheme of it, it protects my tanks from the Stalkers and, you know, that type of thing. So let's pick it up till we get to a point where we can attack again. I'm just going to trade right here. Poke down. Let's go 2x. And then we see Dark Shrine. That's okay because we have a turret in our main and we have 3 orbital commands. Don't need to expand because we're just destroying his base. We could expand, but don't really want to risk anything if we don't have to. Marines, tanks, if DTs warp in, we have a bunch of scans, and command center's dead, and that's pretty much the game. So he's going to poke up. I think he sends in one more DT. Yep, doesn't even work. Okay, so that's the theory, and the big underlying point was the fact that it dealt with that this build was able to deal with the Blink Stalker all-in, which is something that most Terrans actually struggle quite heavily with. And we're going to go back and look at it one more time, just the initial part. So let's go through, and we know the build order. In fact, I think I made another video. I did make another video of this recently. So we go 10 depot, 12 barracks, 12 refinery, Reaper Scout, which will be going out there. And we're just going to watch in base now. Now, our decision will be based on what the Reaper scouts. We have a reactor. Following up the reactor, we'll get a command center. Go ahead and build it on the low ground because we poke out with the Reaper, don't see anything. Follow that up with a factory. Go in the base. Scout. Okay, Blink Stalkers. Tech lab on the factory instead of a reactor, instead of swapping. Second refinery. Bunkers. Right here. Bunkers very important. Second refinery at some point, if I do actually end up getting it. There we go. Second refinery. What was that at? That was like 20-something supply. It doesn't matter. Just, it was reactive play. Continuous marine and tank production until we thwart the threat. Okay? So until we defend the threat. And this was the most important part of the game. Just being able to put yourself in a defensive position to deal with the impending doom. Which is something that most Terran players have trouble with dealing with from the Protoss. And the tanks just shell out a bunch of damage. The bunkers keep you safe from just about everything. And that is it, my friends. Thanks for watching. Much love to the tens of fans. I'll be on with Vuvu. We'll be making more 2v2 videos and funny videos and all that other cool stuff. As always, like, subscribe, and tell me what you think.